First of all, let's see what he's working on. All right, so we're going to back up. Let's take a video. What do we got here? What are we working on? What is this? Q5? All right, this is an Audi Q5. What size motor?
V6, 3.2 liter.
It's a 3.2 liter V6, and he had a valve cover gasket leak. And so now Leon is tearing down. It's called the tear down, unless you're putting it back together.
Putting it back together.
Oh, he's putting it back together. Okay, so he already did the tear down. And now he's putting it back together. Let's see where he's at. All right, so we changed the valve cover gaskets. This is common things for valve cover gaskets to be leaking, of course. All right, you guys will be doing plenty of these on all kind of different cars. So Leon is putting the spark plugs, the coil-on plug systems back in. You can see us putting it in one at a time. All right, as we reassemble. And of course, there's covers that go outside of that. Now, any special techniques that you use to make sure that you keep all the bolts so you don't lose any bolts that you want to share with the...
I usually put the bolts in the order I took them out in.
All right, that's a good idea. So how you line them up? You're putting them up here. You line them up a certain way.
Yeah, I'll put them in like, well, you know, valve cover gaskets. You have to go from the inside to out.
Okay.
So I put it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll put them in like.
And why do we go from the inside out? Why don't you explain that to him?
Aluminum. If you do it from the reverse, you could warp the aluminum and crack it.
Okay, so there you go. So what happens is, what he's trying to say is, when you're taking it apart, and also when you put it back together, you start from the center out. Kind of the same thing as cylinder heads.
Yep.
Right? And the reason being, remember that aluminum will crack, will bend. And so you want to start from the center out. Right? So start putting those things into your mind. Almost everything that we're put back together or take apart, we usually start from the center. Intake manifolds, cylinder heads, valve cover gaskets. Always start from the center and work your way out, especially with aluminum components. All right? For that fact that they can and they will warp, they will break. One of the cars that I know for a fact warp a lot. And what happens is you guys will change the valve cover gaskets, and then they'll start still leaking into the galleys, right, where the spark plugs go. Mm-hmm. You know which one it is? There you go. All right. The Hondas are notoriously known. You guys will have a valve cover gasket leak inside where the spark plug galley is. And then what happens is it'll soak the spark plugs, and then you'll get a misfire. So when you pull the spark plug out, you'll see that the spark plug boot is covered in oil. So, of course, easy fix. We're just going to put a brand new valve cover gaskets in, and then you guys go through the whole procedure. And then a few weeks later, the same scenario. And it has to do with warping the cylinder head. All right, so it's a common thing on Hondas. And some of the four-cylinder cars also have. I know my Saturn had a problem with it. Okay, so it all depends. So, these are some of the normal things that you guys will run into.
Need a torque set. I'm gonna go buy one. What? Need a torque set.
Of course, they're always going to make everything different. So we're going to need he's talking about getting a Torx for these bolts so he can put them back in place. To see if I can get a video on it. It's not focusing in on it.
Right there.
Yeah, back up, right. Yep, there it is. So let's say we have a hex, and the only thing that you guys have are Torx. Now, in a pinch, this will work. Okay, so let's take a look. This is the torque. Okay, and if all emergency purposes, all right, you can use it. All right, we have, even though they're Torx. Oh, there are Torx. Okay, so yeah, so let me get the smaller one. All right. So, the T30, that one. All right, but even if these were hex and you guys only had Torx in a pinch, these will work. Okay, these will work. So here's the T30. All right, let's take a look. Let's see if they work right here.
Yep.
All right, so you see right there, it does work. Okay, so we can tighten them down, all right, to finish the job. Okay. All right, so here's the first question. That's the credit points to my students. When you guys are working on cylinder heads or, let's say, valve cover gaskets, and there's a warped aluminum valve cover gasket, there is a street fix. And actually, not just a street fix, they actually fix them this way, also machine shops. And I want to know if you guys can answer that question. I want you guys to look it up, so that is the first question I'm going to ask you guys today. And is, what is a street fix, or how can you fix a cylinder head gasket that is warped, aluminum ones, right, or intake, or valve cover gaskets, or whatever the case may be? There is a street fix for it, right? Back in the day, that's the way we would do it. So I'm going to make you guys look it up. That is question number one. Since we don't have glue, most of the time you're chewing gum, put it to use. Okay, so let's say we got to put we want to put one of these bits. Okay.
It's 4.3 miles away.
Oh, that's close. Yeah, and so, yeah, let's do that. John Gotti Pizza. All right, so let's say we want to put one of these pieces in here, but of course, you know, you have the problem that it falls out. Well, one of the quick fixes or things you guys can do in the field is, obviously, you take a piece of gum that you're chewing, you put it right there in the socket, puts it right in there. Does it work good, Leon? Okay, there you go. Right, no tape, no nothing. The tape sucks. Just put a piece of gum in there, holds it in place, and you're good to go. Okay, so that's one of the quick things that you guys can do right out in the field again, and it has to do with holding these bits into these sockets. Not unless you lose it, which most of the time we do lose a socket. All you got to do is just take it out and just put it in the right size socket in here. But then you have the problem of holding it in place, and it's really easy. Right? I should have asked that question to see if you guys can come up with a creative answer. Maybe many answers, all right? But there's a lot of ways around it. So chewing gum, just putting a piece of gum in there, that'll work. All right, so this is the new one. And we're having, this is nice and soft. Okay, I'm surprised they're still making them black like this, because I really don't like. Okay. And so what happens is over time, from, you know, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and heating up, they basically turn into a rock. Okay, and then they lose their sealing properties. Okay, as let's see if you can take it out all in one piece, or will it break and crumble as you're taking them off? All right, so Leon is taking them off.
You might want to slip the bolts.
Sometimes these are
They
glued.
don't come out all the way. They stop right there.
Okay, these will are glued in place, and it becomes even harder to take them out. Some manufacturers will glue them, right, with weather strip adhesive, and it maybe look like maybe. Well, we're going to find out right here in a second.
Well, this